Greetings, Benjamin J. the Victrola with another in the series. Well, still experimenting with the tinfoil phonograph. I'll tell you, for being such a simple machine, this is really, really difficult to adjust. You can get it adjusted so it makes extremely good recordings, but a temperature change, turning the air conditioner on, and the machine's out of adjustment. I mean, it's really, really that critical. So I'm trying to get the machine adjusted as best as possible so it's making good quality recordings without having to do anything else. Once I get it adjusted, I can transport it, put it in a box, take it to grandma's house, take it out, do a demonstration with it, and I know it's going to work every single time and make a good recording. So right now I've done lots and lots of recordings, hundreds of them, with different size horns. I just built this one. It's a 14-inch horn, fiberboard, weighs 2.2 ounces. And been using this for playback. For recording, I'm going to do a recording with the speaking tube. And it's surprising. The recordings I'm making with horns are much deeper. They're much more defined, and yet they're as loud as a speaking tube. A speaking tube makes a recording that lightly indents the surface, but it's as loud and clear as a recording that I make with a 10-inch horn. It's surprising, and it's somewhat consternating to see these really, really deep grooves and get X amount of volume, and then make a recording with the speaking tube and get these really, really shallow grooves with the same amount of volume. So, like I said, it's a vast learning curve, and there's no one to ask, and there's no place to look for answers. I mean, how many people have a tinfoil phonograph, and how many people are actually doing experiments, empirical experiments to find out what works, what doesn't, how to make the optimum recording, the loudest recording on a consistent basis. You can make little adjustments and make some really outstanding recordings. Like I said, the machine will get hot or cold, or you move it, and it makes a recording, but not nearly as good as the recording it did before. So, in any case, it's been an ongoing series of experiments. What I'm doing now is going to install the foil, and I've been recording on the dull side, because when I take photographs, it's just so much easier to photograph the dull side than it is the shiny side. It doesn't seem to make any difference in the recording at all. And so I just put a bit of glue on the foil and place it on the mandrel. And of course, you try to get it as straight as you can, but it's fairly easy to center it. And of course, the problem with this is it's only got enough space to record approximately 60 words, they say. Actually, I don't think it can record that many words. Of course, it depends on how fast you're cranking it, of course. But as I said, Mary Had a Little Lamb fits on this like that's what it was made for. And I'm really beginning to think that that is exactly what it was made for, was recording Mary Had a Little Lamb. So right now I'm just trying to get the foil centered, or reasonably centered. There we go. And this mandrel is 2 inches wide, so I'm cutting this foil about 2 1/8 inches, and whatever excess just rolls over on the side. And rolling this foil down really gives you a smooth, tight surface on the mandrel. So I'm going to record with the speaking tube and see what kind of recording we get. I'll be playing it back through a 14-inch fiberboard horn. As I said, these horns are really light, so using a standard witch's hat horn, it's so heavy that it actually tilts the stylus away from the foil and makes a soft recording. So I'm lining this up as carefully as possible, give myself as much room as possible for recording. Okay, so I've got my stylus set, I've got my depth of cut set, I've got the stylus centered in the groove, and I'm going to be recording with a speaking tube. Now this is the dictation link speaking tube I use for the cylinder phonograph. It's way too long for this machine, but it gives me a chance to test it. So I'm going to do a quick recording with a speaking tube, and let's see how this goes. Hello, hello, hello! Mary had a little lamb. Its fleece was white as snow. And everywhere that Mary went, the lamb was sure to go. Ha, ha, ha. All right, so we pull the speaking tube off. And as I said, these indentations are not nearly as deep as they are when I'm using a recording horn, and yet the recording is, it seems to be just as loud. So, like I said, it's a huge learning curve, and every time I use this machine, I learn something new. Okay, so we've rewound the mandrel to its starting point. I've locked the stylus holder back in position, put on a 14-inch fiberboard horn, and here's the recording we made with the speaking tube.
Hello, hello, hello. Mary had a little lamb. His fleece was white as snow. And everywhere that Mary went, the lamb was sure to go. Ha, ha, ha.
So, the speaking tube works. It's clear, it's crisp, and it's fairly loud. It's actually not as loud as when I record with a horn, but it's almost as loud. And yet, it's really interesting to note that the grooves are so shallow. Remember, this is hill and dale, vertical modulation. The grooves are so shallow, and yet it's almost as loud as it is recording with a 10-inch horn. That's a bit perplexing. As I said, there's no one to ask, there's no place to look this up. None of this is documented. There's so little information on recording on a tinfoil phonograph, especially recording on aluminum foil, that it's all trial and error. I mean, all of it. And it's adjustments, make a recording, adjustments, make a recording. And I've gone through 140 feet of aluminum foil cut into 2 1/8-inch strips. So I'm cutting these all out with a razor blade, so it's make 5 recordings, cut some more foil, make 5 recordings, cut some more foil. And trying to cut this foil is quite difficult. I'm laying it out with a straight edge and then cutting it with a razor blade. And a razor blade stays sharp about 3 cuts through foil. And so I'm going through boxes of razor blades. I've got to find some efficient, quick way to cut this foil. Again, I'm going to be recording on other foils as well, but I've got to get the machine running really optimally, as best as it can run. And as I said, I've made some really decent recordings on this machine. And I'll come back the next day after the machine has been sitting all night, make a recording, and it's mediocre. When nothing has been touched, simply the dimensional changes in the machine getting warmer or colder, the adjustments are that critical, and I'm not kidding. For being such a simple, straightforward device, this is by far the most difficult, time-consuming, perplexing machine that I have ever used in my life. An adjustment that is almost too small to see makes a tremendous difference in the kind of recording you get. It's so frustrating. As I said, you can make a really splendid, outstanding, loud, bright recording. Come back the next day, make a recording, the machine has not been touched, and the recording sounds nothing like the one you made the night before. Hard to account for that, but then, again, these adjustments are so small that as the machine cools or warms, it really affects the overall performance. So it's been a real learning curve, and it's really frustrating. And I've replaced the stylus now twice. I've replaced the diaphragm. The only thing I haven't replaced so far is the gaskets. I'm still using paper gaskets simply because I don't have any polymer gaskets yet to experiment with. But it's just one ongoing experiment. So what I'm trying to do now is just get the machine set up so it makes good quality recordings no matter what I do to it. I take it out, move it, let it get cold, let it get hot. Whatever I do to it, I want to be able to take this thing out, do a public display, pull it out of its box, do a recording, have the recording sound good, be able to transport it and have the machine still sound good without having to do any other changes to it. So I just wanted to do a quick recording with a speaking tube. As I said, it's just an ongoing series of experiments. I've learned a lot. I'm really beginning to get to know the machine now. And looking at the groove, you can tell if the stylus is too deep, not deep enough, too far to the left, too far to the right. And the adjustment for the recording stylus, you can actually jump one complete groove either way, and it'll record both sides of a groove. You can jump over to this groove, you can jump over to that groove. But it's really surprising. If you're slightly touching one of the groove walls, your recording is gone. It just does not work. It has to be absolutely dead center in the groove where it's indenting the foil. Remember, this is indenting. It's not cutting anything. It's just indenting aluminum foil. And when you take the foil off, you have a series of what are essentially dots. I doubt if you can see that. But it's just a series of dots, and some are deeper than others, but it's vertical modulation. And it's really an interesting process, but again, it is just absolutely frustrating trying to get this machine to work well, and work consistently, no matter what I do to it. So that's what I'm working on now, is getting the machine adjusted so I can take it anywhere and have it still work well, regardless of its temperature, regardless of how much it was moved, regardless of anything. I want the machine to work consistently every time and work well. So, just a continuing, ongoing series excuse me, of experiments recording on 1 mil aluminum foil. So I just wanted you to hear the recording with the speaking tube. As always, if you have any questions, feel free to drop me an email, TheVictrolaGuy@gmail.com. I answer all of my email. This is the new series, of course, the tinfoil phonograph. There isn't a whole lot of these machines around. They're actually quite rare. There are several homemade machines, but there are no demonstration phonographs. So as I said, I have nothing to compare this to. There's no one to ask, and there's nowhere to look. You can find out about the machine, but you can find out absolutely nothing about recording on it. So, in any case, just wanted to do a quick recording so you could hear what it sounds like recording with a speaking tube. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to drop me an email, TheVictrolaGuy@gmail.com. And as always, thank you for watching.